Hi, this is Moses Gumadi. Welcome to my channel, The Hebrew Bible. In this video, I will teach you how to learn to read the Hebrew Bible. This is a series and this is part 1. In this video, I will only focus on the introductory aspects of how to read the Hebrew Bible. Obviously, you won't be able to read at the end of it, but you will have some basic introduction of how to go about it. Okay. So in the book of Nehemiah chapter 8 and verse 8, we read, "So they read in the book in the law of God distinctly and gave the sense and caused them to understand the reading." So reading is the first part, and then saying it, reading it distinctly, clearly, pronouncing properly, and then giving the sense, understanding or the meaning of it, and then to understand what is being read. Okay, let us read this in Hebrew. Vayikrevu vesefer betorath ha-Elohim meforash vesom sekel vayavinu bamikra. Okay, so you should be able to read like this, and that is what we will try to achieve in a series of videos. And this is the first one, giving you a very basic introduction. Okay, there are 3 things you need to do, obviously, to begin to read the Hebrew text. First of all, you should get the Hebrew Bible text, and there are some online resources which I will suggest where you can read it from. Secondly, you should learn the Hebrew alphabet and how they sound. Thirdly, you should learn Hebrew vowels and their pronunciation. These 3 things are good enough to start with to read the Hebrew Bible. Firstly, the Hebrew Bible text. See, the text in the Hebrew is here. These are the first three letters, first 3 words of the Bible. In the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 1, it says, Bereshit bara Elohim. Now, you observe here there are letters and there are also these dots and dashes in colors. And I have used the SBL Hebrew font because this is a very good font, easily recognizable, and for the purpose of consistency and not causing confusion of letters, I will use this font going forward. Same font is also used in the Blue Letter Bible, which I'm going to show you shortly. Just remember, the Hebrew text is read from the right to the left in the direction of the sunrise to the sunset, from east to west. Okay, so what you see here is that in the previous, we have these vowels and markings in the red and in the green, whereas if you get rid of them, what you have is the bare alphabet, Aleph, Beit, or alphabet. That's what we need to learn first. And the second step is to learn the vowels, or nikudot, called nikudot in Hebrew, or vowels. So these red bits are the vowels. And if you add these green bits to the text, then you get the cantillation. So these are the cantillation, teamin, and they're meant for chanting the text, and sometimes also meant for stressing certain syllables, etc. Very rarely they do also have the impact on the meaning of the text. But again, in the original, there are no vowels and no cantillation. These were added. Obviously, there was a tradition of speaking, so they knew how to pronounce. However, that was not documented. Only after about 9th or 10th century, they were able to fully document. And the vowel pointing and the pointing called cantillation that we are using is called Tiberian, cantillation, or vowel pointing. There are other methods known as Palestinian and Babylonian as well now, which have gone out of date. So any Hebrew Bible that you pick up, whether online or a physical copy, what you see is what we have shown here, and they are the Tiberian vowel pointing, vowels and cantillation, both of them. Okay, all right. So the source of the Hebrew text, obviously, there are multiple of them. I suggest blueletterbible.org, and you type Genesis 1:1 here, and you can get Genesis 1:1. If you click this here, it's a hyperlink. You get this bit in the bottom, and you have the Hebrew text here, and the font used is exactly the same font that we have used. Now you will see cantillation marks and the vowel points. You can check and uncheck these two things. I have unchecked the cantillation and checked on the vowels. Vowels are sufficient to read. You don't need cantillation to read. Okay, so let's not talk about cantillation. Vowels are good enough to read the Hebrew text. That for all practical purposes. Sometimes I think this guy, Blue Letter Bible shows there's a symbol here called meteg, that one. Again, for the stress. Well, I don't know why this is classified as a vowel. It could be probably classified as a vowel, but it could be classified with the other ones. But they do show within the vowels. But the remaining are obviously, no doubt, they are the vowels. Okay. Another source for the text is Mekon Mamre. This is the website, and it is a Hebrew and English Bible together, but the English edition is in the JPS, Jewish Publication Society, 1917 edition. You can click the book of the Bible here. Obviously the Old Testament. And here we have in English and in the Hebrew. And interestingly, as we want it, only vowels are shown and no cantillation, apart from occasional commas here. That's a comma there. You can see my pointer. Other than that, they're all vowels, and except for these braces, etc. You don't have to read this one. This is a paragraph mark. Again, this Aleph, Bet, Gimel, these are the verse numbers. They are numbers. But this is the text. If you buy a hard copy of the Bible, a printed edition, the text might look like this, where there are both vowels and cantillation present. But once you master how to read with the vowels, you can just ignore the cantillation and just read it straightforward. And if you happen to learn cantillation, then of course you can chant as well. That's a bit of an advanced thing. Right. This also comes in the PDF. You can download the PDF. The real advantage of this is that they've got a lot of textual things they show. For example, there are some letters which are bigger. Here we have a bigger letter Ayin and a bigger letter Dalet. Then corresponding letter Dalet here is a small letter. So in Hebrew, there are no capitals in small letters. They have just made them into bigger size letters to indicate something, and it's only our guess, like what is that they're trying to indicate. In the Hebrew text, you have all kinds of these peculiarities, with some letters being small and some letters big and some being suspended, and sometimes they go out of the rule system, but for some reason. Okay, those you can see in the printed Hebrew texts or in the written Torah scrolls in the synagogues. Okay, the second thing that you need to know, obviously, is the Hebrew alphabet itself and how they sound. Now, I will have a separate video on the Hebrew alphabet and how they sound, but just be aware there are 22 letters. And the first thing at this stage is memorize Aleph to Tav. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Waw, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samek, Ayin, Pei, Tzadik, Kof, Resh, Shin, Tav. So you should be able to say that like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. So that's the way you should do it. If you practice that, that'll be really good. And second, should be able to recognize the letters. That's the key. Should be able to look at the letter and say, hey, this is the letter. If I show you, for example, Ayin suddenly, and you say, yeah, that's Ayin, oh, this is Kaf. Should not confuse between Bet and Kaf, for example, these two letters here, where my cursor is. That's what needs to be done. So that's the first exercise, really. Remember the letters, remember the names of the letters. Familiarize yourself. And these 5 letters that I have highlighted, Kaf, Mem, Nun, Pei, Tzadeh, they have final forms, meaning in a word, if any of these letters were to occur, you don't use these symbols. Instead, you use these, the red symbols here. Okay? They are called final forms or sofit. This is Kaf and this is Kaf Sofit. This is Mem and Mem Sofit. Generally, except for Mem, Kaf, Nun, Pe, and Sade, all of them have the things extended below, or the tails extended below the line. So they're easy to recognize, except for Mem, which is basically rounded and closed. So the Mem is open here, whereas it is closed fully. That's the difference. So these are the 27 glyphs or characters, but actually 22 letters. Thirdly, you need to learn Hebrew vowels and learn how to pronounce them. So I'm not going to again teach you that in this, except I'll just mention briefly what kind of vowels are there. So you have this letter Beth here. If you put a dot, actually, although the letter is Beth, it is pronounced Veth, Ve, V sound. If you put this dot, then it is pronounced the B sound. So this dot occurs in some letters, and in some letters it won't. And there are rules which determine what happens when this dot called dagesh. This is called dagesh. There are two kinds of dagesh, dagesh lene, dagesh forte. We'll talk about them in a different video. So that's the first thing. This is not a vowel, but it determines the sounds of the letters. It changes the sound of the letter. And then we have the vowels which have a sound of a, e, I, o, u. They're all these things are all categorized according to a sound. So they are about 4 a sound, about 5 a sound, 2 I sound, and 4 o sound and u sounds. Some of them are short. For example, this is short, this is long. This is u, and this is u, longer. So this would be Beth, and without a dot is pronounced Veth. This will be pronounced as vu, and this is vu, a little bit longer. Okay. There's another symbol called Sheva, and that can be pronounced as eh sometimes, and sometimes it is not pronounced. It's just cut short. So we will look at all these rules in subsequent videos, but just be aware, you don't have to get confused that these vowels, how many of them are there, they're all classified into simply these 5 sounds. Okay. There are other vowels which determine the sound of the letter. And this Sheva is a separate vowel which has different properties which we will discuss. Other than that, you would have noticed that these 3 letters are Yud. So an actual letter out of the 22 letters is used as one of the vowels. So that's an interesting thing. Only the Yud, and then next the letter He and the letter Vav are used as vowels, although they are actually consonants. In fact, all the 22 letters are consonants, but these 3 can be used as vowels, and interestingly, they 3 are the letters of the Lord's name, Yud He, Vav He. Right, so that brings us to the end of this video, and I will see you in the next video to learn more about how to read the Hebrew Bible. Thank you.